What up, everybody? Happy Thursday morning. We're here. We're here like we are every morning, every single morning, chatting about the Carolina Panthers, chatting about the National Football League, chatting about anything, man. Welcome. Let me make sure everything's set up here. Wherever you are, anywhere around the world, welcome. We're gonna have a great chat. We're gonna absolutely have a great chat today, and it's gonna be great, man. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. We're here. Yosh retired. That was the bombshell last night. So Yosh retires. Hold on, let me close the door. Yosh retired last night, and Sheena had it first. But man, that's a tough loss for the Panthers because and maybe that's why Forsythe got signed. Like maybe that's what they were thinking in terms of like, oh yeah, we gotta go do this. But yeah, that is tough if you ask me. That is tough if you ask me. Because the depth that we thought was going to be there is no longer there. So, um, yeah, just like a tough loss for him to not play. And let's see. So Sheena had it first. So let me pull up what Sheena said last night. So Sheena had it first, and she says Panthers offensive line appears to be taking another hit. Tackle Yosh Nijman seemingly announces his retirement after 7 seasons via his Instagram account. And then everybody was like, oh my God. Like, it was like, oh, this is not good. Um, and then Mike K, let me see what Mike said. Uh, Mike hopped in and said, where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Um, Yosh seemed really sentimental. So this was pretty interesting. Yosh seemed pretty sentimental during clean out day in retrospect. I remember interviewing him for the draft as a prospect from New Jersey. Good for him. And then essentially, uh, as a guy who likes using the term swing tackle in my daily vernacular, I have to say Yosh did his job very well over 2 years in Carolina. He had some particularly great moments in the season during the turnaround. I enjoyed covering him and made him the focus of an Access Panthers newsletter back in December after the last win of 2025. So yeah, like that's that's a thing, y'all. That's a thing. And now, ultimately it leads to, it just leads to other issues. And we're just gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what happens, man. But let's see what's going on before we get started on the Panthers. Let's do a big picture perspective on what's going on around the league in terms of the Panthers. I mean, not in terms of the Panthers, but just in terms of what's happening around the league. I know Get Up does stuff, so let's just start with the league at large, and then we'll go from here. So let's start here.
And Eric DaCosta in particular. Schefter, you were talking to literally everyone inside the league. What kinds of things were you hearing?
Yeah, there are some front offices, teams that feel a certain way that the Ravens didn't do right. But the fact of the matter is, and we discussed this yesterday, when you're making an investment that sizable, 2 first-round draft picks, tens of millions of dollars to the player himself in guaranteed money, you want to make sure that your doctors can examine that player's knee. And when that happened, the only ones that have access to that information are the Baltimore Ravens. They were planning a celebration. Max Crosby and his wife were flown to Baltimore. He went through the physical. They were going to dinner that night. They were going to finalize the trade. And when the doctors examined his knee, the Ravens could not and did not feel comfortable moving forward in the trade. And that is why they backed out of it. So do all these people who are questioning the Ravens have access to that medical information right now? Yes, there are teams that say it's bad business. That's fine. They can feel that way. There are teams that could say, we're not going to do business with the Ravens anymore and not trade with them. That's their prerogative.
It is pretty rich for him to say that the people that have questions about the trade don't have access to the medical stuff. Once again, I've been very clear about the fact that I think Rossini has kind of done a better job about this than he has. But yeah, I mean, that's something else, man. That's something else. Let's see what the NFL Network people are saying. All right, they haven't posted anything quite yet. Oh, okay. Players now released with a post. Are y'all seeing what I'm seeing? Yeah, y'all are seeing what I'm seeing. So players now released with a post-1 June designation include Kyler Murray, Kirk Cousins, Tua, David Njoku, Wyatt Teller, Dree Greenlaw, Nate Hobbs. Chargers adding. Yeah, none of this is new. Full details on the first 15 trades. That also what are the Titans doing? The Titans are hilarious. Salah's like, we're just going to bring everybody back. That's essentially what Salah's doing. Salah's just saying, hey, we're bringing we're bringing them all back together, everybody. I respect it. Like, I kind of respect it. It's like, yeah, we're just going to bring the gang back together, fam. Like, that's what we're going to do. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I did want to point out something that Panthers culture said here that I thought was really, really good. I hate this is for the Panthers, right? I hate the growing sentiment of taking offensive tackle at 19 regardless. If I'm an OT that happens to be BPA there, so be it. I'd rather draft a defensive or offensive playmaker there, spend some cash on a short-term vet solution at OT, start a rookie OT without a top 10 traits. May not go well. I could not agree more. And then what I said in response to that, if I can pull it up. I said PC is speaking the truth here. Forcing yourself to pick an OT when the pick isn't there would be a huge mistake. This is why ultimately Morgan has to go get another LT before the draft begins. And there's some options out there, like Bill Barnwell, who is phenomenal from ESPN. He came out with his list of like free agents that are still available, and this is what he says. He says Kyler Murray, Stephon Diggs, Rasheed Walker, Wyatt Teller, Joel Benito, Juwan Jennings is still out there, Joey Bosa, Jawan Taylor, Brisker, Kobe Durant, Al-Qadam Muhammad, Taylor Decker, Han, and Dallas Goedert. Interesting that he has Goddard so far down. But what I want to focus on is Rasheed Walker, because I then retweeted that and I said, Rasheed Walker is pretty interesting to me. Because if you go look at Rasheed Walker, I said this is what Brandon Thorne from Tench Warfare said about Rasheed Walker. If I'm Dane Morgan and I'm not wanting to be forced to get an LT in the first round, I'm calling his agent and seeing if we can give him a contract. Walker, a former 7th round pick in the 2022 draft, has outperformed. Oh, let me make sure y'all are seeing this. All right. Walker, a former 7th round pick in the 2022 draft, has outperformed his draft status with 52 starts, including 48 of 52 games since taking over full time as a starter in 2023. Availability and experience are strengths. Technically, however, his profile is more limited than the other two options. Walker plays with inconsistent leverage, often upright with late high hand placement, which compromises his anchor and allows power to compress the pocket. When he lands first contact, his natural strength and grip can control reps, but that contact timing is not always reliable. In the run game, he brings physicality and strength, yet his pad level and hand placement limit how consistently he can generate and sustain movement at the point of attack. Walker projects as a viable starter in the right environment, particularly on a line with stronger complementary pieces. On most units, however, he profiles more cleanly as a high-end swing tackle or a fourth, fifth starter rather than a foundational piece. I mean, if I'm, once again, now the term swing tackle gets thrown a lot out there, right? Like the term swing tackle gets thrown a lot. If we're really looking for a swing tackle, this is your guy. This is your guy. So yeah, pretty interesting to me in terms of, I mean, I think tackle, we've gone now with this tackle conversation. We've gone from it being like an area of potential need to the most, like, I would argue that we now need a tackle more than we needed a line, like an outside linebacker. And we believe me, we needed an outside linebacker real bad. So, yeah. All right. What's going on around the league? What is going on around the league? Oh, man. It does look like Kyler Murray. Oh, let's look at the available free agents. This is Greg Rosenthal from ESPN. We don't need. So the available free agents right now. Oh, hold on. Let me pull it up. Share this tab instead. Can y'all see what I'm looking at? There we go. So we've got Malik Willis. I see him as the most dynamic quarterback. Oh. But these guys are already gone. Yeah, this doesn't help us at all. All right. Let's see. Also, did y'all see Daniel Jones signing for like 2 years? $100 million. It really is more of a 1 year with like the option after that. But that is big money for a guy coming off like an Achilles injury. That's all I got to say. Like, that is big money.
Now he gets 50. We'll start with the Indianapolis Colts. They had a very big week. Obviously, it started with Alec Pearson, the 4-year, $114 million contract extension. When he signed, believing that Daniel Jones would be his quarterback. At that point, though, it wasn't fully clear. Jones was on the transition tag, wanted a deal, wanted security with the Indianapolis Colts. And over the last several days, that is exactly what they did, locking him in on a 2-year deal worth up to $100 million, according to my colleague Tom Pelissero. $88 million at its base, $50 million in year one. Had Daniel Jones played on the transition tag, he would have made $38 million. Now he gets $50, an excellent deal for Daniel Jones, plus that extra year of security, although really, if he goes out and plays well, probably getting another contract extension after next year anyway. And then there is Kyler Murray, the top free agent available and certainly the top quarterback available. He was officially released by the Arizona Cardinals yesterday. And because they are paying more than $38 million of his salary fully guaranteed, the team he is going to join is going to pay for him for the minimum. His contract has offsets. Basically, what that means is the original team pays everything except for as little as possible. He is going to visit the Minnesota.
I think the report that Pelissero put out last night about him is that he's visiting like several teams, but we all know what's going on, right? Like, we all know that he's signing with Vikings. Like, that's exactly what's happening. That's just exactly what's happening. So
Minnesota Vikings today. Now, he spent the last 12 hours or so talking to different teams, talking to decision makers, getting ahead of the 2027 free agency process. Has never been a free agent before. It seemed like he wanted to talk to teams and kind of begin all that. He is going to be in the building for the Minnesota Vikings today. There's a good chance that a deal comes together very quickly, and we may see Kyler Murray be the next quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, add to that quarterback room to compete with J.J. McCarthy.
I mean, for sure. Like, I think that we're pretty set on that, fam. Oh, man. Like, it's yeah. This is what the Panthers social media team came out with in terms of who's going to be, like, Yosh retiring. I thought it was important. Yosh Nijman is retiring from football. The offensive tackle announced on social media Wednesday night. He spent the last 2 seasons playing for the Carolina Panthers. Nijman was an unrestricted free agent, free to sign with any team after the league opened up on Wednesday. He was a candidate to resign with the Panthers but the team agreed to terms with tackle Stone Forsythe earlier this week to cover his absence. Yosh is just an athlete. Having a good swing guy like that has been certainly invaluable for us. Offensive coordinator Brad Idzik said of Nijman during the season, the tackle filled in both for Taylor Moton and Ike Mekwonu at different times, starting 7 games during his time in Carolina and appearing in 32. Damn, I didn't know that. He appeared in 32 games. That's crazy. He was the ultimate next man up till the very end, stepping in on the Panthers' 8th play from scrimmage in a wild matchup against the Los Angeles Rams, where Icky suffered a knee injury. Nijman finished the game at left tackle without allowing a sack. Longtime offensive lineman Austin Corbett bragged on Nijman ahead of a playoff game. He's played a lot of football, and no moment's too big for him. The Virginia Tech product originally entered the league in 2019 as an undrafted free agent. I didn't know this about him. Some of y'all might have known this about him, but like, I didn't know he was a free agent, which is kind of crazy. But not terribly surprising. I mean, it's just you don't see a lot of undrafted free agents. By 2022, he had become the starting left tackle for Aaron Rodgers' final year in Green Bay. Over the course of Nijman's 6-year career, he played in 99 games, starting 29. Nijman announced his retirement on his Instagram page with a message of thanks for both Green Bay and Carolina. After 7 incredible years in the NFL, I've decided it's time to officially step away from the game of football, he wrote alongside a swipe of photos that chronicled his football career. First and foremost, I want to thank God. My faith in Jesus Christ has been the foundation of my life and career. Gotta get that in. Gotta get that in. Through every high, every challenge, every injury, and every opportunity, God has guided my path and given me strength far beyond what I could do on my own. Football has been a blessing, but my relationship with him will always be the most important part of my journey. I'm grateful for the opportunity to play the game I love at the highest level, from my college days at Virginia Tech, where I grew up as both a player and a man, to living out my dream in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers and the Carolina Panthers. Every moment that shaped who I am. To the fans in Green Bay and Carolina, thank you for your passion and support. Playing in front of you was truly special. Most importantly, I want to thank my family and friends. Your constant support, prayers, and encouragement made this journey possible. Football has given me so much, but I'm excited for the next chapter of life and the new ways God will use me moving forward. Many of Nijman's teammates from the Panthers chimed in with words of support, thanks, and well wishes as veteran offensive tackle moves on to the next phase of his career. Damn. That's something else. So now there's real concerns. There's real concerns about what's going to happen, man. The Bengals. The Bengals have reached let me share this. The Bengals have reached a contract extension with Orlando Brown Jr., locking him in for the future. That's important. Man, all these offensive tackles, man. The issue with offensive tackle, let's talk about offensive tackle for a second, because I think it's an important conversation to have. The issue with offensive tackle is that it is not an area, Like, this offensive tackle class is not very good. It's just not very good. So when you force yourself to draft an offensive tackle, that's going to be a problem because the offensive tackles are not very good. Can Dan Morgan get me Bradley Chubb? I don't think so. I don't think so. I just don't think that's going to happen, especially since Buffalo just signed him for a contract that is way more than I would have been comfortable signing him for. Let's see what Get Up's saying.
Some of those draft picks, and they send them to the Las Vegas Raiders, and they bring Max Crosby to the Philadelphia Eagles, where they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, largely because they rushed the passer so ridiculously well. And a big part of their fall off has been that they haven't done that as well in recent years. Max Crosby to the Eagles would make all the sense in the world to me, and they can get the extra picks by making.
I love that Get Up. I love that Get Up has essentially become like an elevated First Take. Like, they're like, okay, First Take isn't really liked the way we want it to be liked. Let's just elevate it just a little bit, but not enough for it to be that different, right? Like, I feel like that's how Get Up operates.
The trade we've been talking about all along. I'm connecting those dots. What do you think?
Well, I think Howie is a guy, though, that's not going to say, I'm going to give you more than I have to give you right now. I don't think Howie overpays after what he saw with the Ravens. I believe this is the team, too, that we'll see down the road who only have Nolan Smith. They only have Jalix Hunt right now as those outside rushers. This is the team where we'll see peeping into Max Crosby. And we know one thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, it's never too late until the trade deadline, right? And so if they start to feel we aren't getting the type of pressure we want to get, Jahad Campbell's playing well in replace of N'Kobe D. Andrew Makuba is playing well in replace of Reed Blankenship. Now we know Reek Woolen is playing at an all-pro level, a Pro Bowl level again. Let's go get the rusher to win. And I think you saw that they weren't ready to make that sort of move saw with the Ravens. I believe more than I have to give you.
Those dots, what do you think?
Well, I think Howie is a guy, though, that's not going to say, I'm going to give you more than I have to give you right now. I don't think Howie overpays after what he saw with the Ravens. I believe this is the team, too, that we'll see down the road who only have Nolan Smith. They only have Jalix Hunt right now as those outside rushers. This is the team where we'll see peeping into Max Crosby. And we know one thing about the Philadelphia Eagles, it's never too late until the trade deadline.
It would be a mistake. I think if you're Las Vegas, it would be a mistake to settle for anything less, because right now, Max's stock has never been lower, right? Like, Max's stock has never been lower than right now. So to me, it would be a mistake to like do it now, because teams are like, oh, you really wanted to get rid of him, but now he's got injury concerns, right? So you can't make that trade right now, essentially. So yeah, they're going to have to wait.
Right. And so if they start to feel we aren't getting the type of pressure we want to get, Jahad Campbell's playing well in replace of N'Kobe D. Andrew Makuba is playing well in replace of Reed Blankenship. Now we know Reek Woolen is playing at an all-pro level, a Pro Bowl level again. Let's go get the rusher to win. And I think you saw that they weren't ready to make that sort of move by allowing Jalen Phillips to go to the Carolina Panthers. They're a team I'd be looking for. I don't think they do this or.
Oh, look at Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark making some sense this morning. Caden Proctor at 9. Hold on. Can y'all see this? Caden Proctor at 19 makes sense. You can't catch it. Absolutely not. I would literally give half of my heart away for us not to have Caden Proctor. I'm just saying. I'm not a big Caden Proctor guy. So I would not like Caden Proctor. Yeah, please no. Please, anybody but Caden Proctor. Jared. Dan Morgan made 2 of the biggest splashes and forbid other moves have flown under the radar. All right, let's see what Jared is saying here. Share this tab instead. Y'all know how I feel about Jared. I feel like Jared's phenomenal. A really good guy that knows he does a lot more like X's and O's in a way that I don't. So I like him a lot. The Carolina Panthers endured many. Hold on. Let me make sure this is what it needs to be so y'all can see. Can y'all see that? Yeah, y'all can see that. The Carolina Panthers endured many years of heartache and frustration in the early years of the Tepper era. The franchise saw no postseason appearances in Tepper's first 7 years. As a team owner, his countless miscalculations cost the team credibility and respect for much of the early 2020s. However, it seems as though Tepper righted the ship 2 years ago when he hired head coach Canales and promoted Dan Morgan to general manager. The Panthers have progressed from a 2-15 laughingstock to a franchise coming off its best season in 8 years. With free agency officially underway, Morgan's work to regain precious depth across the roster landscape has been tireless, as his latest signees have shown. Carolina Panthers are building a complete roster under general manager Dan Morgan. No doubt the Panthers have made some of the biggest splashes in free agency so far, landing their number one edge rusher in Jalen Phillips and their best linebacker in half a decade with Devin Lloyd. That will get the attention of everyone across the sport and Carolina faithful fans. However, Morgan has made signings and re-signings that have flown under the radar, but they are also incredibly important. He brought back hybrid defender Isaiah Simmons, defensive backs Caleb Evans and Robert Rochelle, pass rushers Thomas Nkun and Trevor Gibson, tight end James Mitchell, and wide receiver David Moore, all of whom received one-year deals as they fight to remain on the 53-man roster. What do all these players have in common? They contribute significantly to special teams while providing depth at their respective positions. No one is saying all these guys will be playing starting football games at a consistent rate in 2026. Say it again for people in the back. Say it again for people in the back, Jared. Because people get real crazy about how everybody has to be a home run hit. No one is saying all these guys will be starting football games. They may not make the final roster, yet it is the depth and value that provide that the Panthers have lacked for years. Since Scott Fitterer was fired as general manager, Morgan has worked to rebuild the roster from the ground up, and the plans for gradual progression has brought positive results. This may sound like an overreaction, but the team is in a much better place than it was before the 2024 season. It is not an overreaction. Are you kidding me? Both in terms of depth and talent. It's a testament to the franchise growth in recent years and Morgan's tireless commitment to building the most structurally sound possible. It would be remiss. Okay, we got to talk about Stone Forsythe here. It would be remiss to not point out the additions of offensive lineman Stone Forsythe and Luke Fortner in free agency. The former has experience as a field goal protector because of his incredible size, though the play is up for serious debate, while the latter could be a stopgap for a rookie center under Cade Mays departed from the Lions. The thing that y'all need to know about Jared is Jared has covered the team. So Jared covers the Panthers, but he also covers the Jaguars. I think he covers the Chiefs for Sports Illustrated as well. So he knows his stuff. He's a pro at what he's doing here. Where we at? I lost the page. The NFL draft will remain a key component for Morgan to establish a sound foundation for the Panthers roster as the years go on and the wins begin to materialize. The re-signings of key depth players and special assets will be an overlooked positive to the momentum to build. Carolina is being built the right way. And fans can thank Morgan for that. Not wrong, man. Not wrong. Oh man. Ricky made some kind of comment that also it looks like the US is, I don't know if y'all saw this, but it looks like the US is through to the World Baseball Classic or past the, and one of the players from Italy was like, yeah, you can thank us for that, right? That was hilarious. That was very, very funny. Very, 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 very funny. Yeah, it was Vinny who did it, but I just thought that was hilarious. Just very, very funny. What did Ricky say? Ricky said something here. Hey man, what you up to today, Taylor Decker? Oh my gosh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, this is what he said.
USA. We were thinking of you guys over at your hotel. We were thinking of you guys, so I'm glad you guys could join us in the party.
So when you get back to your phone, Vinny, what's that text message going to say from Bobby Witt Jr.?
I'm hoping he's got a room key for me at his hotel. That's what I'm hoping for. That was unbelievable, huh? You're welcome, USA. We were thinking of you guys over at your hotel.
That's hilarious. Okay, let's go to just some wider news about the NFL. Yeah, let's. Oh, and then we're going to listen to John Mechie from Locked On Panthers. But right now, let's listen to this stuff.
All our favorite travel sites in one place.
If you got hit, even if you were not driving, you need to try this.
Because if you were in and then back to the NFL and the absolute madness, the Charm City changeup, where the league is still buzzing about the Ravens backing out of their trade agreement for Max Crosby. Yesterday, Baltimore GM Eric DeCosta addressing the reaction to their stunning decision, and if the real reason was just flat them getting cold feet.
I understand how people might maybe from afar would feel that way, but nobody's more upset about this than me. Gutted by it, actually, and so a big regret for me. But we will move on as a football team.
How do you view that any concern maybe impacting the business with other teams, other players, other relationships, whatever kind of impact it might have when something like that? Because obviously guys fail through with this.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't stopped my phone from ringing. I'll tell you that.
Right. Yes, nothing was going to stop his phone from ringing. Okay, so let's start with Shefty here. I was surprised, just sitting at the relative distance from which I sit on my couch, paying attention to what's being said on social media, at the amount of vitriol yesterday that I saw being slung in the direction of the Ravens in general and Eric DeCosta in particular. Shefty, you were talking to literally everyone inside the league. What kinds of things were you hearing?
Yeah, there are some front offices, teams that feel a certain way that the Ravens didn't do right. But the fact of the matter is, and we discussed this yesterday, when you're making an investment that sizable, 2 first-round draft picks, tens of millions of dollars to the player himself in guaranteed money, you want to make sure that your doctors can examine that player's knee. And when that happened, the only ones that have access.
I think my issue with this line of rhetoric from Schefter is like everybody knew about this already. Like this, there's nothing actually new. They knew, they had conversations around this. So it's really hard for me to be like, oh yeah, this is it.
Access to that information are the Baltimore Ravens. They were planning a celebration. Max Crosby and his wife were flown to Baltimore. He went through the physical. They were going to dinner that night. They were going to finalize the trade. And when the doctors examined his knee, the Ravens could not and did not feel comfortable moving forward in the trade. And that is why they backed out of it. So do all these people who are questioning the Ravens have access to that medical information right now? Yes, there are teams that say it's bad business. That's fine. They can feel that way. There are teams that could say, we're not going to do business with the Ravens anymore and not trade with them. That's their prerogative. But this was the information that the Ravens had in their hands with the examination of their doctors and other medical opinions who reviewed the scans, and they did not feel comfortable moving forward in the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you're going to get the sort of anonymous griping that was around yesterday. But I mean, to DeCosta's point, like it's not going. Teams aren't going to refuse to do business with the Ravens because they backed out of a deal. Like teams are going to do what's.
Well, I mean, I think part of that is like there's the Athletic reporter. I don't know if y'all saw this report, but like he said, like we've got some. There's going to be some serious hesitation to do a trade if the Ravens are going to pull out like this again. You know, like that.
Good for the team. Right. Agents are going to do what's good for their client. Like it's not. It's an unfortunate and awkward situation, but it was not against any kind of rule. And if in fact what happened is they got cold feet, then that's within their rights too. But I think to Adam's point, like the man had surgery on his knee.
it's certainly plausible that the doctor got a look at the knee and said, you can't do this, for 2 first-round picks. And that's the conclusion that they reached. And they made a quick pivot to fill the hole.
To be clear, for those who weren't paying attention to it yesterday, I'm in no way suggesting this is what happened. I'm merely saying that what some people out there are positing is they were surprised that Trey Hendrickson might still have been available at the price that he was, and they looked at it and they said to themselves, maybe Trey Hendrickson and our two first-round picks are better for us than getting Max Crosby. Again, I'm not saying that's what they did. I'm saying that's
even
what
if
people
it is,
out there are saying, and would be within their rights to do it, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, even if that is what happened, I mean, we know they were talking to Trey Hendrickson in the first place, so they had a sense of where that market was.
Here's the deal. We all know, and most of you on here are Carolina Panthers fans, so if Dan Morgan was offered up, I have to also be fair. If Dan Morgan was offered up the same opportunity, right? And you tell him, oh yeah, you have to give up 2 first-rounders for Crosby, or you get to sign another elite edge rusher. I mean, what is he going to do? What is he going to do in a situation like that? So, I mean, I think that's a fair point.
But yeah, once the Crosby thing wasn't going to happen, they got aggressive.
Right. That's what I mean. That's when people say, well, what do you mean cold feet? They wanted to do the trade. That's what I mean when I say people are suggesting it. Go.
Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Right.
But I do think that we have to reiterate the fact that passing or failing a physical is not as cut and dry or binary as we make it seem. Yep. So the bar for which you had to pass Max Crosby for the physical, that bar can change if all of a sudden Trey Hendrickson is available for less than you anticipated. I don't think that's insane. I'm not sure that that's the way people do business, but I think to the point that we made earlier, ain't nobody gonna stop calling. If there's a deal that they think can help, maybe the Raiders. Eric DeCosta, you might be done doing deals with the Raiders for a few months, but the rest of the league is still open for business.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do business as business is being done. Yeah. Right. And this is what happens with the league calendar. You get to make these trades. The trades aren't official until the league year starts. And so whatever you do in between there is your business. And if I'm Eric DeCosta and I've had trouble with some picks, I've had trouble with some free agent acquisitions, and I'm sitting back and I'm looking, and maybe the doctor comes to me and he says, hey man, I think the knee will be good. I think he'll be ready to go in August. I can't be sure exactly how great he'll be. And then on the other phone, somebody's saying to you, say dog, we might be able to get Trey Hendrickson. And if we get Trey Hendrickson after we lose our center, after we lose a star, standout, physically gifted tight end, you can also have them first 2 picks back. Right. You say, oh, wait, maybe.
I mean, honestly, that I think this is the first time that I've been like, yeah, I can kind of see it. Yeah, I can kind of see it. And if Dane Morgan was in the same kind of situation, would be like, yeah, I can kind of see it.
I should make this move. And like he says too, though, there is going to be no repercussion and consequence of this in the sense of doing business with other teams.
I think we have to reiterate how huge a deal this is. You have Lamar Jackson, who's playing in his prime. This is a Super Bowl decision. Whether if Max Crosby shows up and plays to the highest level, your chance of winning Super Bowl goes up. If he shows up and is not able to give you what you want, and you have 2 picks out the door, your chances of winning a Super Bowl hit the floor. It's those type of decisions. It's a career-defining decision for Lamar Jackson and probably for Eric DeCosta, who's taken over from a Hall of Famer 2 times, should be Hall of Famer in Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah, and the price is the key thing here. My understanding is the concern was not about can he make it back for this season and play well. It's about well, how long can he play if this is the condition of his knee? And you're giving up 2 first-round picks. Right. You're giving up 2 first-round picks. That's not for a player you're only going to have for 1 year. You need to have that player as part of your future as well, or else it's not worth it.
Shefty, go.
Oh.
Mina, I want to point this out before we talk through the Baltimore side of all this. I've spent some time talking today to Stefania Bell, our medical expert here at ESPN. She's pointed out that all these teams can conduct their own physicals, right? These players come to them. They get imaging done by those teams. It's up to the teams about their comfort level on these players. Take that for what you will with how you want to parse through this. But any issue on how Baltimore handled all of this?
I think it's really hard to know. There's so many unknowns here. It is not outside the realm of possibility that the Ravens looked at a player who's pushing 29, who's played more defensive snaps than any defensive lineman in football.
I think what's really interesting too is the Ravens essentially what's going understated in my opinion is how good Crosby is as a defender. Like Crosby is a phenomenal run defender. Let me turn my heater off. Hold on. Like Crosby is a ridiculous run defender, and if you're the Bengals, I'm sorry, if you're Trey Hendrickson, you don't get that same. Like he's not as good as a run defender as Crosby was. So, from the football perspective, I feel like that's important.
Over the last 6 years, and saw something that concerned them. It's also not outside their own possibility that they got cold feet because they gave up so much to get him. To me, this is something where over time we'll probably find out what happened through Max Crosby in his play. If he returns and he looks great, I think it wouldn't be unreasonable to look at the Ravens with a little bit of a side eye. But if he does struggle, if it takes him a while to get back to health, if he's not the same moving forward, I think we'll look back at this decision and say, yeah, the Ravens were right. So I guess to answer your question, to go back to it, for me, it's still kind of an incomplete. I think there's a lot left to be determined.
Yeah, it looks weird. It looks odd. There's a lot of question marks attached to it. That doesn't mean it was malicious in intent. That doesn't mean it lacks integrity. They were allowed to make the decision because of the time frame and how the NFL operates, the legal tampering period, and just recently when the new league year starts, they're in the right, I guess, legal process of going about having the opportunity to change their minds. I feel for Max because now there's a giant cloud and question mark of what's his future going to look like. I also just fall under the belief that this is an amazing opportunity for other organizations that might believe.
You said the Eagles earlier?
Yeah, Philadelphia, Washington, the Bears, the Rams, the Bills, that just, I continue to hear this statement. They weren't comfortable with the knee given what the compensation was going to be. So if the compensation changes, does that make other teams more comfortable with the knee and the long-term prognosis health-wise of that knee?
Yeah, Mina, when you think of some of those teams that Dan laid out there, anybody sound attractive to you as maybe getting, I don't want to call it a bargain for Max Crosby, but based on what it was before, it'll seem like a bargain.
Yeah, I think it's going to be diminished value, not just because of, the potential of an injury or their own valuation, but because there are fewer bidders now than there would have been at the beginning of free agency, most likely. Dan mentioned some of the teams that I'd be intrigued by. I'll throw out another one. New England. They're picking 31st in the draft, of course, in the first round. But they still have a ton of cap space, and I think a pretty significant need in terms of an edge rusher. So, that's a team that's been linked as maybe a potential trade target for A.J. Brown. We'll see if that has any legs. But if not, I would be very comfortable, if I'm New England, using that 31st overall pick to go after Max Crosby.
Yeah, MK, I think we were talking about it. It comes down to, if you're the Raiders and you're just 24 hours removed from the emotion of it, where do you stand on what are you willing to accept? Or do you want to play the long game and think that his value is going to get back to where it was? Or it's going to increase? Do you want to wait closer to the draft? Are you willing to try to hold on and have him play for the Raiders this year? But then there's also that opposite risk of what happens if, the value takes a drastic decrease. And I think if you're the Raiders, you just have to be having those intense conversations. If I were them, I'm trying to take the best I can right now and understanding it's not going to be the best. And I think, or what it was. And I think if you're other teams, like, hey, what are we willing to maybe be a little bit more aggressive on, knowing that we're going to get a player that if we are right, gosh, we're going to get an absolute steal here.
Yeah, and a very motivated steal, right? Because you bet Max Crosby wants to come back and prove that the Ravens screwed up here. The funny thing about the Raiders is, although their leverage...
Let's see what Carolina Panthers on Hive is saying.
credentialed member of the media, covering Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe, aka Man of the People. Let me adjust my mic really quickly so that you guys can hear me a little bit better than what you can right now. I'm sure there's a little bit of an echo, so give me a second to correct that. My apologies. We're gonna fix this real quick and then get rolling with the show. All right, again, the echo will be going away in just 1 second. Now that echo is going. Hey, you got to get me some better glasses for that reflection. But Chris Jenkins, credentialed member of the media, covering the Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe, aka Man of the People, here with your late night Wednesday, March the 11th update on Carolina Panthers free agency / NFC South / NFL news. We're going to try to take you around and be full and competent in talking about the NFL during this offseason as we give you these updates. Hey, as always, if you have not done so already, encourage you to hit that like button, subscribe if you have not done so. Sorry. Let's go ahead and get you guys started with everything that's going on with the Carolina Panthers, and then we'll take you in these shows, get an opportunity to be a part of this team, and maybe get a bigger contract. So Luke is a part of that. Luke comes from Kentucky, and man, this is a really smart guy. You know, linemen are some interesting, smart people. Talking about taking advantage of a scholarship, not only did this guy get a degree, not only did he get 2 degrees, he got like 3 degrees, including an MBA, a master's, and his undergrad. So smart guy, nevertheless. Luke Fortner comes to us from Kentucky, most recently, again, coming from the New Orleans Saints. And something that he possesses, which is important, which we have liked, which I think it was just last season that the Carolina Panthers had this record amount of guys that just different lineups, and we needed it. So at the least, he brings some depth, he brings some versatility, and you can never have too much of that at that line spot if they try to also save a few dollars as of right now. With Luke Fortner coming to the team, he got a 5-year deal to be a part of this Carolina Panthers team. Today was really an offensive day, all right? So they stayed on the offensive side of the ball, and they also.
I think Luke, to me, I mean, obviously from the 2 like linemen that we got, Luke to me is clearly the better talent, and that's not saying much because Forsyth was just terrible and awful, but like clearly like there's one guy that's better than the other in those 2, and I think that Luke will probably see meaningful snaps at some point.
Also got a offensive tackle, Stone Forsyth, again on a 1-year deal, and this guy is ginormous, like height-wise ginormous. He's not big ginormous. He is 6'8". That is tall. I didn't have a chance to look at the roster before I came online, but I really would like to think that is the tallest guy that will be on this team, protecting Bryce Young. So that'd be a very interesting dynamic, right? If you see Bryce standing right next to his lineman, is almost 1 foot of difference there. So nevertheless, he comes to us from the Raiders. He had 13 starts with them last year. And, he's going to help again fill out this line with Akeem Ikwanu being out. And we don't know what's going to happen with it slips my tongue, but giving us some more depth on that offensive line. All right. So that's the second transaction that we got. What's going on, SC Panthers boy? Appreciate you tuning in. So anytime you're a member, have one more. We got one more guy, John Michi, wide receiver John Michi. And by the way, usually we get access to these guys once.
Also, the John Michi stuff is dirty work by some of y'all, because some of y'all have there's either been like 2 responses, right? Like it's been like, oh my gosh, we need this guy at all costs, or like I mean, it's hilarious to me because some of y'all have been absolutely saying he's going to be the best hire ever. And then some of y'all are saying he's awful. And to be quite honest, he's probably somewhere in between, right? Like, let's be fair. He's somewhere in between.
they get officially signed. Official signing period started yesterday. So I would expect, we're not going to get all these guys, but I would expect one or two of these players, quite possibly by the end of the week, we'll have access to ask some questions to get you guys more information about them. So once again, hit that subscribe button, set your bell notifications to look for some more information coming forth about these guys. But John Mechie, not sure the exact pronunciation, but the biggest thing that you want to hear about, he has familiarity with one Bryce Young. They played together at Alabama. He was a 2022 second round pick. He had a bout where he was diagnosed with leukemia, missed some significant time, has been back, and most recently played last year with the Philadelphia Eagles. With the Eagles, he didn't get much burn, right? He didn't get much time at all with the Eagles, but then he went to the New York Jets. They decided not to tender the young man, and so therefore he was a free agent open for the taking, and he was then taken by the Carolina Panthers. Just got a $5 Cash App from Nicole Streeter. So yes, the Cash App link is also in the description for those that are watching, able to do so. Again, you guys are everything to Charlotte Vibe, right? Without you, 100%, we don't have any major sponsors.
Anyways, we don't have to keep watching that. I just wanted to give he's really good if you want a Panthers, like he's essentially independent source. So very, very good. I did think very, very interesting. Where am I looking here? Oh, let's see. So a couple of things. First, from the National Football League, like the big picture perspective, I saw something that I wanted to share here. Where's it at? Share this tab instead. Okay, here we go. It's interesting to note Max Crosby's agent himself pushed back in the replies on the report and corrected the record. To this point, I've not spoken to one league source who's indicated a contract revision was happening year one in Baltimore. Thus said in revision in and of itself would not have been an impediment to signing both Crosby and Trey. Either way, I feel like Max has done a really good job of getting back to work and demonstrating the professionalism he has throughout the entire process. Like I said before, it'll be another chapter in his iconic legacy. I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. Can we talk about something real quick? Rasheed Walker, 2025 Green Bay Packers. What he brings, Walker's pass block rate of 93.8, ranked 11th among 68 qualifying offensive tackles. His technique could improve, and he lacks a strong anchor, but he has the footwork and ability to match the speed of edge rushers. Look, if you're Dan Morgan, make the call to this guy. I mean, what's going to hurt? What's so bad about it? The real ball watcher, dang, Dan and Brant even try to bring Yosh back as icky insurance as we expected. Clear as day, the Stone signing was a last minute pivot. Yeah, man. It's crazy. From the NFL draft perspective, I think one of the things that's really interesting is what's his name? Monroe Freeling. I think he's probably, a lot of Panthers fans have talked about how they want Monroe Freeling to go at 19. Y'all, I'm pretty convinced Monroe Freeling is going to go as the first offensive tackle taken. Like, I don't think Monroe Freeling is going to be available there. Like, he's just not going to be available at that range. I think he's going to be gone. So, I mean, it's best separation, win routes on go routes. Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans is going to cook in San Francisco, y'all. I don't care what y'all think. Mike Evans is absolutely going to cook, and I am so happy he's out of the freaking division. Like, he terrorized Carolina. He terrorized Carolina. Do y'all remember that game? Whatever that game. I mean, it was just god awful. It was just god awful with how he terrorized this team. So yeah, I'm very happy that but yeah, I actually think from a fantasy football perspective, he's going to do he's going to do well over there. I mean, there's going to be no problems with what he aims to do over there. All right.
Like you had to check it out first, was the fact that they said the Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Max Crosby, meaning that whatever happened is something that the Raiders were clearly not in agreement with at all. So walk me through the medical portion of this deal. When he took his physical, what did the Ravens know, and when did they know it about his knee? Diana.
Yeah, I'm going to try to get through this with you here. So, and it's easy to follow. It's essentially before teams were trading for Max Crosby, teams like the Bears, teams like the Tampa Bay Bucks, teams like the Cowboys, New England, even at one point, they spoke to his doctor. They spoke to the Raiders medical staff to find out, hey, we're thinking about trading for this guy. What are we talking about here? This is normal operation in the NFL before you trade for a player, especially if you're going to have to give up as much capital as the team was obviously forced to do here in the end. So the Ravens decided to make this trade, or at least agree to it, knowing all of this information, having spoken to the surgeon that did the surgery. Yet you still want to make sure that the doctors in your building review the MRIs and take a look at the player themselves. And they did that. So the Ravens team doctor on Friday, actually, what's today? Today's Wednesday. So this was Tuesday.
Right.
So Friday the trade went down.
Right.
Max flew in on Monday night. Tuesday, he was at the facility. And the team doctor took a look at him, and they took a look at the MRIs. Then they decided to have 4 to 5 independent doctors take a look at it. Collectively, they made the decision, all these doctors, that this is not good for the long term. The short term, for 26, right, the upcoming season, they felt Max would be okay. It was about the third year, the future of Max Crosby as a Raven. And that's when they made the decision that they were going to send back the trade offer and send Max back on a jet after spending almost 8 hours in the Ravens facility, meeting with the head coach, meeting with assistants, meeting the staff members, with his family.
That's
and
crazy.
then was told later in
That's
the afternoon,
absolutely insane.
he was brought into Eric DeCosta's office and told,
I mean, I know that I know that these players make like millions of dollars. So I'm not even saying that all of us need to feel sorry for Max and his family, but it is kind of wild where you think that you're essentially going to move on, and then it's like, nah, we're not. Like, it's a doozy. It's kind of a doozy if we're honest.
look, this we're sorry, this isn't going to work. We have too many concerns about your knee. You're now a Vegas Raider again. So he flew back, and he's back in the building today, rehabbing as a Raider.
He had to have been totally steamrolled by that. I can't imagine going into the office of the general manager who just acquired you in your head and then hearing those words from Eric DeCosta. Yeah, I mean, he had to be dazed, confused, or whatever. And so they then reached out to the Raiders and canceled the trade, which, by the way, as I said off the top of this show, it's their right. They have the right to do that. But, I mean, this had nothing to do.
I heard what you said about the right.
Sure.
And I had a head coach this morning say the same thing you did. He essentially said exactly what you said, but
Oh, is she about to go in? Is she about to go in on Eisen? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
you're way more eloquent.
Okay, I'll take it.
Per usual. Per usual.
Thanks. All right.
But I think the reason why the Ravens are taking so much heat and why the Raiders are obviously mad about this is it seems fishy that Trey Hendrickson was available, who they signed this morning or expected to when the new league year starts here in a few hours, that those conversations started yesterday. I can tell you the Ravens spoke to Trey Hendrickson yesterday while Max Crosby was in the building.
Oh.
Okay. So that tells you that they were aware that something was going on with Max Crosby. Max Crosby was there, not knowing he was
Wait,
this was not going to be his team. Okay,
Let's
so
listen to that
I
again.
think
What did she say?
they were aware. It seems fishy that Trey Hendrickson was available, who they signed this morning or expected to when the new league year starts here in a few hours, that those conversations started yesterday. I can tell you the Ravens spoke to Trey Hendrickson yesterday.
So this came out yesterday. This was 18 hours ago. And what Rossini is saying is that even the day before that, they were already having these conversations. Yeah, that's sketch. I'm not going to lie, fam. That's sketch.
Max Crosby was in the building.
Oh.
Okay. So that tells you that they were aware that something was going on with Max Crosby. Max Crosby was there, not knowing he was a dead man walking, that this was not going to be his team. Okay. So I think that's the problem here. Going through the medicals and saying, okay, this isn't good enough, that's fair. That is their right. And if that's what they really felt, they should do that. But if the reason you did this was because you got cold feet, that you gave up 2 first-rounders for a player that's going to be 29 years old in December, that you thought that maybe his knee wasn't in the shape that you wanted it to be, and oh, look, there's Trey Hendrickson, I think that's where it gets a little sticky. And I think that's where a lot of general managers and head coaches and agents that have been texting you for sure have been texting me to make it known that this isn't the way it's supposed to operate. And look, we'll all move past it. The Ravens aren't going to, no one's going to stop doing business with them. That's not how it is. We know how it goes in football. People move on quick. But this certainly isn't a great moment. And now Max Crosby, I think unless a team is really willing to give up 2 first-round picks right now, which I can't find one, I think he's going to be a Raider for this upcoming season. And I think he's okay with it. I actually think the relationship between Max Crosby and the Raiders, despite the fact that it was not great at the end of the season, we've done tons of reporting. I know you guys have as well, and the guests that have come on your show. But it wasn't broken. It wasn't a relationship that was so tarnished that it could never be repaired. It just was, hey, it's probably beneficial we move on from you, Max. We're going to be able to get a lot of compensation. And Max is like, I can't win here. I've been through a lot. I need a change. I want to build my legacy. I want to go get a Super Bowl, knowing that this Raiders team is not built to win now. But this free agency, they did very well. And I think that's encouraging for someone like Max. And I don't expect anything but absolute discipline and focus like we see from him all the time. I mean, the guy, think about what that took. You land last night from Baltimore. Essentially, I was told he left the building around like 5, 6 o'clock, right? So you're back in Vegas, 4-hour flight out of Baltimore. It's 11, right? You get up and you're back in the building at 6 a.m. as a Raider after all of this debacle. Like, I just think you got to give him some credit on top of the fact that I saw on his Instagram post that he's celebrating 6 years of sobriety. Yeah. I just think for a tough day, that's great for Max. I think he's been through tougher,
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing. That's a thing. All right, let's go to this Matt Bowen article. Essentially, Matt Bowen is saying, who are the guys that are still available in free agency? Who are the guys that he would spend money on? So you got Rasheed Walker. God, that would be. Jennings is third. 6'3", 213 pounds. Jennings is a consistent route runner who plays through contact. Taylor Decker. Decker asked for his release from the Lions after 10 seasons in Detroit. In 2025, Decker had a pass block win rate of 89.3, the second lowest of his career. However, with the toughness and intangibles he brings, he will have a market at the premium position. That's true. Stephon Diggs, I would no part of Stephon Diggs. Joey Bosa. Bosa has played in at least 14 games over the past 2 seasons after injuries limited him in a total of 13 games. I felt like he had a good year this year. But yeah, that's a thing. Joel Bitonio, 12-year pro, has started 178 NFL games. He's a savvy technician who had a 90.6 pass block win rate, third among guards. Jaquan Brisker, a downhill safety who creates disruption near the line of scrimmage. Brisker plays in all 17 games after missing 12 and 24 with a concussion. He's an ally filler. And then Demo, Cam Robinson. I don't want Cam Robinson. Chris Paul, David Njoku, AJ Spinessa, Drew Greenlaw. Yeah, so make that call, Dan Morgan. Like, go ahead and pick up the phone. Like, just go ahead and make that call. I just think, yeah, I just think you gotta do that. You gotta make that call, man. Oh my gosh. The Browns have low key had not a bad free agency. So low key have not had a bad free agency. Just kind of crazy. Just kind of crazy.
New Old Spice Cosmic Quest 24/7 freshness makes me want to be Mario. He has the confidence to fly through the galaxy.
What Albert saying here?
This situation doesn't really have a precedent. All right, welcome in. It's the Brew Report for March the 11th. It has been an eventful 15 hours. As you might expect, I've been locked in over that period of time on the Max Crosby saga and everything associated with it. And so that's what we're going to focus today's show completely and wholly on what's happening with Max Crosby, with the Ravens, with the Raiders. And I can just say off the top, and I said this in one of our videos last night, this situation doesn't really have a precedent. And for me, this is my 22nd season covering the NFL. I haven't covered a story like this. I've seen failed physicals before, most famously Drew Brees in Miami in 2006. You know, I've seen people back out of deals before. Everybody will remember Frank Gore. At one point, there was a CJ Mosley situation that was a little bit like that. We've obviously seen big ticket trades with multiple first-round picks changing hands. The Jalen Ramsey trade, the Micah Parsons trade, the Matthew Stafford trade, but never the confluence of events, of those sorts of elements all coming together the way they did at 8:02 Eastern last night when the Raiders hit send on a tweet indicating that the Baltimore Ravens had backed out of their deal with Max Crosby. So our first order of business here will be giving you all the background and how all this went down and what's happened over the course of the last few months. We'll buzz through the very beginning of it so you have the baseline for it, which in October, game against the Chiefs, Max Crosby injures his knee. At that point, after scans were done, it was determined and everybody was apprised of the fact that Crosby would eventually have to have surgery on his meniscus, but that he could play through it. So he plays through for the next couple of months. He deals with pain. On December 23rd, the Raiders order more scans. Coming out of those scans,
I love Albert, by the way. I think Albert is one of the really, really good guys. I think he's phenomenal. I think he does sometimes give me Schefter vibes in the way he explains things. That's why I like Rossini a little more. I think that's why I like Pelissero even a little more. But yeah, I do love me some Albert Breer. Just saying.
determined that they're going to shut him down for the rest of the year. There's a communication issue there between Crosby and the team, and primarily, Alex Guerrero's involvement in that was certainly, a hot button piece of the whole situation. Crosby felt like coming out of the meetings that he had on December the 26th that the team was shutting him down to try to tank for the first overall pick. Storms out of the building. Shortly there, doesn't play the last 2 games of the year. The Raiders stuck to their guns. Crosby wanted to play. The Raiders stuck to what they had said, which was, we're shutting you down for the year. Crosby soon thereafter, this is 8 weeks ago, has a full meniscus repair. That puts him on target to be cleared to play football again somewhere in June or early July. And quietly goes in and asks for a trade. And, his messaging to the Raiders at that point was, I want this to be respectful. I want to maintain my legacy within the organization. I want this to help you guys too. He still had loyalty to ownership.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's news to me in terms of how he went about doing that. So that's good to know.
There, he's very close with Mark Davis. So the Raiders at the combine and in the time since work to do a trade. They wind up finding a bunch of big time offers. More than a quarter of the league was involved. Plenty of teams offered first round picks as part of the package to try and get Crosby. The Ravens ultimately go to the 2 first round picks. Now here is where the new information comes in. As they were putting the final touches on what this trade was going to look like on Friday morning, the Raiders did give the Ravens, give their trainers permission to talk to the Ravens trainers. This is standard operating procedure. They'll trade medical info ahead of a trade. Any questions that the team that's trading for the player has to ask, the trading team will answer. They pass along scans, they pass along MRIs, all of this information. Generally, it's an open book. And because they go through that piece of the process, it's very, very rare that a team trading for a player will find something in the physical that didn't show up during those discussions ahead of a trade being finalized. So that happens. Max Crosby has an event on Saturday, so he can't get to Baltimore, but they agree, we'll bring you in Monday morning. And we'll do the physical. We'll introduce you after the trade is made official on Wednesday. So on Monday morning, he flies across the country, gets to Baltimore early Monday evening. First thing Tuesday, goes and has the physical done, goes through the physical, actually leaves the facility, and then the call comes in that they're going to fail him on his physical. So what does it mean to be failed on a physical? That's the other part that I think people need to know here. This is not a black and white thing. This essentially is an NFL team giving a player a score. And a lot of it is based on risk assessment. For example, in the draft, if there's an injured player, a team doctor may give a player a score that's, says we're comfortable with you, Mr. Coach, you, Mr. GM, taking this player in the 4th round, but not the first 3 rounds. Or we're comfortable with you taking him in the 2nd round and not the 1st round. Well, the same thing works for veteran players. If Max Crosby were being traded for a 7th round pick and he was due $5 million in the fall, I think that it's reasonable to think that the Ravens would have passed him on this physical. But obviously there's a lot at play here. 2 first round picks, $30 million a year over the next few years. The prospect that Max Crosby is going to come back to the table after a year, this is his last year of guaranteed money, and ask for an extension if he does play well. These all come into play. My understanding is the Ravens did have a problem when they looked at the knee, and it was a question of longevity.
A mother stretches one plate across all 5 of her children. A father skips meals.
So now you look at all of this, right? And so, if you're the Ravens, it's, well, we got this question of what this is going to look like maybe in 2028 or 2029. And for the Raiders, they've obviously already moved on, but the Ravens are looking at it and saying, all right, so if we're bringing him in, we're giving up 2 first-round picks for him. We potentially could give him an extension after this year. Are we comfortable with all of that if it might only be for a year or two rather than 4 or 5 years? And so that's where some of the moving parts come in. And the Trey Hendrickson thing is a piece of this as well that we will get to in a minute. And that's why some teams, other teams, not the Raiders or Ravens, felt like there was some sense of buyer's remorse potentially, where they look at it and they could say, and again, this is other teams, not the Ravens or Raiders talking, but some other teams looked at it and said, like, well, yeah, like this at least looks like the Ravens looked at the physical, looked at the longevity issue, looked at Trey Hendrickson being available, the price dropping on Trey Hendrickson, and thinking, okay, well, we can get Henderson for a little less financially than what we would be giving Crosby. We'd be giving up no picks, and we can move forward that way. Again, that's other teams speculating on this, but that's some of the stuff that's out there across the NFL right now. So that's the background. The second piece of business, the fallout for the Raiders. This is not good. This is a complicated situation, a really bad result for the Raiders on the surface, at least. They spent a ton of money in free agency on Monday and Tuesday. They went out and they signed Tyler Linderbaum from the Ravens. Interestingly enough, they went and they got Kwity Paye from the Colts. They got Quay Walker from the Packers. They got Nakobe Dean from the Eagles. They got Speedy Naylor from the Vikings. So they bring in this big free agent class. They re-sign a couple of their own guys in Stokes and Kuntz on the assumption that $30 million approximately in cash and cap was coming off of their books, which gave them the financial flexibility. So this creates a little bit of a financial logjam. They also now are without the 14th overall pick, and they're without the first-round pick for next year. Very complicated situation for the Raiders. So how do the Raiders move forward? Well, at 6 a.m. this morning, Max Crosby walked through the door with the intention of doing his rehab and rejoining the Raiders and recommitting to the Raiders, because that's the situation he's in. The Raiders actually proactively called Max Crosby when they got word from the Ravens that the trade was called off to try to reconnect with him and say, we view this as a point for us to move forward. You don't know what the future is going to hold a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, but we're comfortable moving forward with you on our roster. And this was as some other teams made calls to check in with the Raiders on whether or not they were going to take another swing at trading Crosby. So for right now, it looks like the best course of action for the Raiders may be going forward with Crosby, and they're comfortable with doing that. Here's the other thing. That'll score them a lot of points with players as Clint Kubiak tries to build his program. You're talking about trying to get guys to commit and be all in on what you're doing and buy in. Well, if you have a star player's back like that in a situation like this, I do think it goes a long way towards building the kind of culture. On top of that, they also will honor all the commitments that they made to Linderbaum, to Paye, to Walker, to Dean, to Naylor, to Stokes, to Kuntz, to Linderbaum. They are going to honor all of those commitments that they made to those players. Again, this is the sort of thing that will give you some credibility if you're Clint Kubiak and trying to build a new program. And so now Max Crosby walks into a situation where the defense that he's going to be playing.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's crazy how it all went down. I put a video out and essentially just talking about how it all went down and what's going to happen. But it's absolutely insane that that's what happens. Yeah, it's a thing, man. It's a thing. Oh, just a little fantasy football talk. Everybody's kind of talking about the Chris Rodriguez stuff because people want to know, like, is it going to be Bayshell Tootin season? Jacob here says, I get the advanced metrics on Zero. Agree, he's a very effective rusher. His issues will always be a combination of not being explosive and being a zero in the pass game. Hard to justify loading up on a one-dimensional back with snaps. Harder if that payoff is capped at chunk runs. People want Taylor Decker and Panther. Look, guys, I'm telling you, I think there's a better guy. There's a better guy to go get than him. And the guy is Rasheed Walker. I really do think Rasheed Walker offers you more than the other guy. So that's who I want. Offers you more. That's who I want. I said here, I already talked about that. But yeah, the Panthers need an offensive tackle. The Panthers cannot go into this offseason without solidifying that offensive tackle. I mean, that's what it is. You've got to be better at offensive tackle. Hey, man, what you up to today, Taylor Decker? Greg Rothenthal wasn't too inspired, although he does fit our current profile. I like Rasheed Walker and would be very happy to. This is Ricky, by the way. Y'all should go follow Ricky. He's an OG. He's a beast. One, two, three, four. Anyways, I think that's working. If the mic doesn't work, let me know, everybody. But I like Rasheed Walker and would be very happy to entertain the idea as well. But do the exact reason Greg notes on the end there, the 1 year likely being appealing. I think that fits the timeline pretty well. I believe Decker still offers an adequate starting left tackle. Yeah. Yep. We might wrap this up a little early tonight. Oh, well, we're starting the OT eval, guys. I like the stump pick from Proctor. The Dallas Cowboys will host Omar Cooper. Omar Cooper, by the way, for the draft sickos, Omar Cooper is not going in the first. Like, Omar Cooper is going to go in the first round. There's no way he's making it to the second round, in my opinion. There's no way that he is making it to the second round for me. Like, he is going to be a pick at the end of the first round. Omar Cooper Jr. is not going to make it to the second round. I don't think he's a fit with the Panthers, but like, I think he's a fit with San Francisco. I think he's a fit with a bunch of teams. So, but yeah, I have a hard time seeing how that's not happening.
For the team in the upcoming season. All that's on today's show. And if you're buying a car, do it
with my guy, Matt.
I'm going to get too caught up in how they finished last season. Remember all the holes they still have, that they're a young rebuilding team. The schedule's going to get tougher. But it does affect me that they went out and fixed their biggest problem last year. The thing that kept them from winning the most, the thing that would keep them from winning. I shouldn't say fixed, addressed their biggest problem. If I said fixed, I meant to say addressed. But, with the left guard, with the running back, they recognize that they need to have a stronger run game, that they can't just rely on Tyler Shuck, that they need to be able to convert those short yardage situations. And I think everything else can be just as good, if not better, as it was last year. So, maybe it's going to make me pick 9 and 8 instead of 8 and 9. It didn't change it didn't change my projection by like several wins. Like if I was a Vikings reporter and all of a sudden Kyler Murray was about to become that team's quarterback, they didn't have an off season like that. But I love that they aggressively went out and identified and addressed what I think was kind of glaringly their biggest weakness last year.
I think they're probably +2 for me coming off this. I think it's probably.
I think the Saints. I mean, I know this is my channel is a Carolina Panthers channel, but I think we have to admit that the Saints are doing good things since the new coach got on. Now, the Falcons, on the other hand, I have no idea what Atlanta is doing. I genuinely have no idea what Atlanta is doing. It looks like they're signing all these guys to like 1-year deals, right? It looks like they're just doing like quick 1-year deals. So maybe that's what they're thinking. Like maybe they're saying like, that's the only thing I can think of, because right now, and the Bucks, they missed out on Hendrickson. Mike Evans left. I think the Bucks are kind of trending in the opposite direction, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think the Saints are good. I think the Saints are in a similar position than we are, essentially.
A +2 swing for me a little bit. I think that Etienne makes Tyler Shuck better. I think Edwards makes Tyler Shuck better. Just on those two alone, Fant, I think, makes Tyler Shuck better. I think it makes them more formationally diverse. I don't know if it's a +1.5 maybe is what it would do if I were setting the win total. Like,
And they're not done yet. I mean, obviously, we don't know who the 8th pick of the draft is, and we're going to feel even better about them a month from now. Yeah,
I'd probably set the win total like 9.5 right now. Really, I would. I think I would. I feel good about where they're at. I feel good.
Also, the idea that Atlanta, this is what I don't understand. The idea that Atlanta has a better, like, I don't know. The idea that Atlanta has a better record, like a better win total than Carolina, that I cannot get behind at all. I don't see how Tua being your quarterback one, you leave that and say, oh yeah, we're in a much better place. Like, genuinely makes no sense to me at all. Like, it genuinely makes 0% sense how anybody could think that.
About where they're going. I feel good about everything they've done to this point. They added a punter. Like, he lost them a game last year, right? That swings it.
You're selling me.
That swings it a little bit. That's a massive addition too. And defensively, I feel like they got worse losing Alante. I don't mean like, look, if you told me for one season, I'd probably take DeMario. If you're telling me for the next 5, I'm probably taking Caden Ellis. Like, sure. I'd rather have him on his age timeline and where he's at. I think he's a really good player. I think he fits well. I like the linebacker that Brandon Staley saying this is the guy I want, ends up being on the team. That all, he feels like a put together individual who has a vision for what he wants to do. So like when he adds a guy, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, like for now, he has my benefit of doubt with the way he had that defense playing by the end of the season. But I feel a lot better about where they're at right now. I think some of the uncertainties out of the room. When we were talking about the depth chart, it was kind of like the highs of the season. Man, they found the quarterback, and then that slows down. And then we're talking for the few shows when we started laying out our depth chart for the website we're building that's going to be out next week. We're looking at the interactive depth chart that's on there. We're like, man, what's going on with this thing? And like, who are these guys? Who do we put in the slot? What do we do here? Oh my God, Nick Salivari's a guard. Like, who's playing where now?
Yeah, I think anybody that follows the NFC South has to realize that, like, the NFC South is the Saints are a team on the rise. The Saints are a team on the rise. So just interesting stuff. Yeah, it's we're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what happens, man. Painter Shrine Podcast, strong words from Princely to fans commenting on professional athletes' social media pages. Thoughts? Athletes post on social media as fans be all in the comments talking about walking. How about you, STFU? Act like athletes aren't allowed to be on their phones. Look, I like Princely. Princely's funny to me, and I want Princely to keep doing the things that Princely does because he's great. Okay, guys, I think that's all for today. Thank you all for joining. Please do all of the things that make this channel grow. Like, subscribe. Yeah, just do the things that make this channel kind of just grow and get bigger. Thank you for making this the home of the Carolina Panthers, the NFL, football at large, right? Like, I just want to keep growing this thing. And we'll go from there. All right, guys, I'll see y'all in the next one.